What is up, guys? I am IzDaisho, and I am here bringing you the vampire breakdown. And I know that a lot of you guys have been looking forward to this for a long time. It was actually one of the first ones requested, but I've only started playing it consistently recently, and now I'm going to show it to you guys. So first, I just have to say that a couple of things I haven't really tested out. They're a little bit experimental, but for the most part, I have it. I'll just show you the one substitution that I'm considering and that I had previously in the many playtests that I did, but I just decided to switch it recently. But anyway, Blade of the Blood Chief. Whenever a creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on equipped creature. If equipped creature is a vampire, put 2 +1/+1 counters on it instead. So this card is so good. It has so many different adaptations, and it's useful in so many different ways. For instance, if they have a creature with it's a 1/1 or whatever, and you swing in with a Child of Night, then normally they'd be like, oh, I'd love to take that trade. But in this situation, if you have your Blade of the Blood Chief on Vampire Nighthawk, then if they block that 1/1 with their 2/1, then Vampire Nighthawk gets 4 +1/+1 counters on it, and it just becomes ridiculous. So it makes them scared to block. Plus, there's so much removal in this deck. There's Gatekeeper, Malakir, Vicious Hunger, Urge to Feed. I'll go through all this later. Those all make this card even better than it is, because whenever you kill one of their creatures, your creatures get 2 +1/+1 counters that don't go away. Even if you de-equip the Blade of the Blood Chief, they still stay. And then also, if you have Vampire Aristocrat out, then you can sack creatures, and then if you have this thing equipped to Vampire Aristocrat, then Vampire Aristocrat gets 2 +1/+1 counters for each creature you sack, plus it gets +2/+2, so it gets +4/+4 until end of turn, and then two of them stay. So this is one of the best cards in the deck, if not the best card. It's so good. This guy I really don't like, but the reason why he's in the deck is he's a vampire. He is a little bit adaptable, because he can kind of adapt to the situation. If you have 5 land out and you have nothing else to do, then you can play him as a 3/3. If you have 4 land out and you have Vampire Nighthawk in your hand, then you can play this card and Vampire Nighthawk, and all in the same turn. I'm not saying that this is definitely the greatest idea to keep this card in, but it's not bad. Plus it has Swamp Walk, so that's helpful against elves and machinations, and I guess Dragon's Roar. But if you need help against Dragon's Roar, you need to look elsewhere. You need to look inwards, I think. But anyway, Quag Vampires is in the deck for now. These two cards I am considering switching for a different card that I'll get to later on. Vampire Bite. This is one of those cards that most people don't run in their vampire decks, and while I understand why, I'm gonna try to explain why I have this card in the deck. So first of all, it's a tricky thing. This whole format is so minuscule with its tricks. Like, there's so few instants and stuff that any kind of instant that is somewhat beneficial, you're going to want to have in your deck. So this card is kind of like Giant Growth, but it only gives you +3/+0. So that makes it a lot worse than Giant Growth, because then your creature ends up trading rather than just killing them, which, I mean, like, normally if they blocked with a 2/4 and you swung in with a 2/1, then they would expect to kill you and not have any problems. But in this situation, in Giant Growth situation, then your creature would survive, but in this situation your creature would still end up dying. But what's good about this card is it has a kicker, so it's adaptable to the situations. That's what I explained with Quag Vampires, but it's the same with this card. It's adaptable to the situation. If you have land for days in your hand, you can give your creature lifelink, which is great. But the reason why this card is still in the deck is because of Child of Night and Vampire Nighthawk. That's, I think, 5 creatures in this deck that all have lifelink. So if you throw this card, then you don't have to kick it, and it still gives it, I mean, your creature sells lifelink. So basically, if you're swinging in with Vampire Nighthawk and it's a 2/3, then you play this card. It's a 1-cost card that says your opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. So that's just outstanding. Plus it's an instant. It's not the best card in the deck, but I do like it here, and it's tricky, so I'm gonna keep it. Anyway, Bloodghast. This is another one of those cards where it's literally one of the best in the deck. It can't block, so that's something that you really need to take into account. when you're playing this game, because sometimes people leave them back to block, or people don't attack because this guy's back to block, so that's bad. But anyway, Bloodghast has haste as long as your opponent has less than 10 life. So far it's like, alright, what's so special about this? This card's a 2/1. Then it's landfall ability. Whenever a land enters the battlefield, you may return Bloodghast from the graveyard to the battlefield. So that's utterly insane. It's so useful with Blade of the Bloodchief, as I explained earlier. You can use this card to just swing in. If they block, then they're screwed. If they don't block, then you just get 2 damage in. And then this guy just keeps coming back, obviously. Another really good thing, another trick with Blade of the Bloodchief and this card is to put Blade of the Bloodchief on this card. That way, if you do that, then your opponent will want to kill the creature with Blade of the Bloodchief on it. Otherwise, it'll get really, really strong. Except they can't, because if they kill this card, then it's basically just a waste of their kill card, because you'll get it right back. So hopefully that wasn't too hard to explain. Child of Night is a great card. It's a 2-cost card, 2/1 lifelink. That's about it, but it's a really good card. People get really scared when they see this card. They want to kill it so badly. But anyway, Dusk Hunter Bat, I don't know. I kind of want to take these guys out. I took everything else with Bloodthirst in it out. But this guy, he just helps me out so much. To have the extra flying creature in the deck, a low cost creature, a flying creature, is really good, because trust me, this deck has plenty of high cost creatures. Anyway, Feast of Blood is a really, really good card. It's a 2-cost kill card. Kills any creature as long as you have 2 vampires, and you gain 4 life, so that's pretty insane. Just have to make sure that you're going to have 2 vampires. Don't count on this card against Unquenchable Fire. Because they're going to be killing your vampires as they come out. Anyway, Gatekeeper Malakir is also a really, really good removal card. If you just play it, then they just have to sacrifice a creature. So they can sacrifice anything. You can kill something with Indestructible this way. You can kill something with Shroud. You just have to make sure that they don't have any bad creatures on the field. So that's why you might want to use some of your other kill cards to weaken up the bad creatures, and then throw this guy out there and kill their one good creature left. Ruthless Coldblade is not the best card, but the reason it's in this deck is because this deck is really, really low on 2-drop creatures. It has a lot of 3-drop creatures and a lot of 3-drop spells. But 2-drop creatures, like, let's see, I mean, I don't consider this a 2-drop creature because you always play it for the kicked cost. But it's got the Dusk Hunter Bats, which you might not always want to play with 2 cost, and Child of Night and Bloodghast, and then that's pretty much it. Those are all your 2-drop creatures. Everything else is sorcery or instant or whatever. So that's why I have this card in the deck, mainly because it matches up better with your mana pool. If you have 5 mana out and you have a Vampire Nighthawk and Captivating Vampire in your hand, then you can't do anything. But if you got Ruthless Coldblade, then you can play both of them in one turn. Plus, like, once you get your opponent to 10 or less life, it's still a 4/2 for 2 costs, so it's really worth it. But it's not the best card in the deck, definitely not, but it's still alright. Urge to Feed, just read this card. Target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. You may tap any number of untapped vampires you control. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on each of those vampires. So it's a really good kill card. It's an instant, and it gives -3/-3. If they have 3 or less toughness, then they're gonna die. And you can make your creature stronger. You can do this after you declare blockers, and your creature will still block. So if they have a 4/4 out, and you have a 5/4 out or whatever, and you're like, oh, I really don't want to lose my creature or whatever, then you can just use this ability, and then your creature will get stronger, and it will survive. But actually, a better scenario would be, let's say you have a 1/2 out and they have a 4/4 out, and you don't want to lose your 1/2, even though there's no such thing as 1/2 in this deck, but whatever, just for the scenario, then you can use Urge to Feed on that creature, tap your creature to make it stronger, so it becomes a 2/3, and then their creature will just become a 1/1 and it'll die. But anyway, whatever. Vicious Hunger, this card is really good. 2 damage, you gain 2 life. Just use it. Don't be frugal with this card. Don't be like, well, I don't want to waste it. Just use it on their low-cost creatures. You'll generally pick up some more removal, plus this isn't going to really do much late game. 2 damage is decent, and it sometimes can help you, but it's not great. Captivating Vampire is amazing. It gives all your other creatures +1/+1, and then its secondary ability, you usually don't get to use it, but if you get to the point where you are going to use it, then this game's pretty much over. You can take one of their guys. Just take him. It's yours now. Even if this guy dies, it's still yours. It's a vampire. It gets +1/+1. All you have to do is tap 5 of your creatures, and then you get it. Vampire Aristocrat is an interesting card, and at first it doesn't seem that good, or at least I didn't think it did, but it's so versatile, and it can be used in so many situations that I really like it. It's so useful just for finishing them off. They have to block this guy, or they're screwed. If you have a bunch of creatures out, so that's amazing. And then if you have Blade of the Blood Chief out, obviously that combination is ridiculous, and you'll win most of the games that you have that. So this guy's really good. You just sacrifice a creature, get +2/+2 until end of turn. Vampire Nighthawk is amazing. Flying, Death Touch, Lifelink, 2/3. He can do anything he wants to do. We'll just leave it at that. Mirror the Cursed is pretty good. It's Flying Haste, 3/2. It also has First Strike. Whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, it gets a +1/+1 counter, so that's not that useful, but either way, anyway, it's a really good card. Sangromancer, I didn't even have this card in my deck for a while, but every time I've had it recently, it's been so useful. It basically just makes them not want to attack with their weak creatures, which really hurts a lot of decks. It hurts the white deck, it hurts the green deck. It just sucks for them when they lose their creatures. And then your kill cards, Feast of Blood, gains you 7 life instead of 3. That's just amazing. Discarding cards is not even an issue, but it's a 3/3 flyer for 4, so even at that, it's not a bad card. Vampire Nocturnus is amazing. Play with your top card revealed. As long as the top card of your library is not a swamp or Blade of the Blood Chief, Vampire Nocturnus and other vampire creatures you control get +2/+1 and flying. I mean, if you don't know how good that is, then you have to see it in action, because it turns games around like there's nothing before it. Drana the Calastria Blood Chief. I don't even know what the name is. I just call it Drana. It's flying. Its tap ability is amazing. First of all, it's a 5 cost 4/4. You tap X and 2 swamps, and target creature gets -0/-X until end of turn, and Drana gets +X/+0 until end of turn. So Drana can become really strong. He can kill weak creatures. It's just amazing. Spread the Sickness is a 5 cost kill card. I would rather it just say destroy target creature and be 3 cost. But whatever. The proliferating is useful if you're running the other type of this deck, if you make it really like bloodthirsty or whatever, because then proliferating gives all your creatures with counters more counters. But as it stands now, I don't have that many creatures with counters on it, so that's not such a big deal. But either way, it's still really good. Corrupt is amazing. It will win you games like every time. Plus, you gain that much life. It's basically like Spire Barrage, except it costs 1 more, and you gain life also. So that's amazing. But anyway, Skeletal Vampire is insane. This guy is Batman. He comes into play with a couple of bats, and at first I was like, well, he's so expensive, and all he does is give you 1/1 bats. Like, he's not that good, but he's so hard to kill. And once he's out there, you already have the 6 mana, so that means that you can just make an extra bat every turn. And then as long as you have more and more bats, and this is really good. If you're playing against a red deck, make sure you don't sacrifice a bat to regenerate it if they use Incinerate, because then you're just kind of fucked, because this guy still dies because it has a regenerate ability. Also, Pyroclasm really hurts him because it kills all his bats, and without his bats, he can't make more bats, so that's not good. So make sure you don't lose all his bats. That's basically it, and that's how I run this vampire deck. I'm going to show you the other cards in a second, but I wanted to show you the deck stats. So right now, I really like it. It used to be that my deck was all 3 drops, basically. It was insane. It had so many 3 drops in it, but I took a lot of them out. Right now it has 5 1-drops, which I like. I like to be able to play stuff on the first turn. Your opponent is not happy about that, even though actually 2 of them are Vampire Bites, so it's really only 3 1-drops. And then it's got 16 2-drops. You're like, hey, Daisho, didn't you say that you wanted to balance it out? Well, first of all, you have to take into account 2 of those are Gatekeeper Malakir, so that you have to add 2 more to the other side, so it's really 7 3-drops, and those are all creatures. And then you have 14 other cards. Let's go check it out right now. You got Feast of Blood, so that's 2, and then you have a couple of Urge to Feeds, a couple of Vicious Hungers, so that's 6 of those cards. So 6 of those cards are removal spells, and then it pretty much it basically evens out after that. It's like 8 to 7. So I don't know. Maybe I'll think about taking Ruthless Coldblade out and putting in another card. Anyway, Tormented Soul, it can't block, and it's not a vampire, so it's useful if you have your deck as a really bloodthirsty, which is how they envisioned it. But I took out almost all the bloodthirst, as you guys will see, because I just don't think it's worth it. Sometimes you can't attack, And if you can't attack, and like this guy's not in your deck, then you're pretty much screwed with Bloodthirst, because if you play your Bloodthirst creatures without Bloodthirst, then they become a lot worse. So yeah, there's that. Demon's Horn, it's just the life gain artifact. I never run those. Baroni Vampire, he's a 3/2 for 3 cost. I can't tell you how many times I've been pissed at this guy because he just dies to an Elite Vanguard. I mean, that's all it is. Every time you're playing the white deck, they play Elite Vanguard turn 1, and you're like, oh, Baroni Vampire is useless for the rest of the game. He is a vampire, and that's why, I mean, I'm considering actually taking him out for Ruthless Coldblade. 2/1 for a 3/2, and it's 1 more cost, so that's the difference. But then once they get down to 10 life, I don't know. It's a tough choice. I think I may do it, but just note that this is the main thing that I'm a little bit. I would consider switching. I would consider searching Baroni for Ruthless Coldblade or the bats. Maybe take out a couple of bats, or Quag Vampires. So those are the really only reservations that I have that I haven't really figured out yet. Blood Rage Vampire, I used to have these in my deck, but even after you kick him, so he's a 3 cost, and even after you kick him, he's still only a 4/2. So not kick him, but you get Bloodthirst. A 4/2 is just, it's not going to cut it. It still dies to an Elite Vanguard, and it's 3 cost. It can die to 2 1/1 creatures. It's just, I don't like it. This guy is really, really good if you get him out. A 4/4 lifelink for 4 costs is good. It's a good card. The only problem is there's so many situations where I'm just like, oh, come on, I really, really need a good card right now. And then I draw this guy, and I'm like, God damn it. But the reason why the reason why he's not in the deck is because of all the heavier drops. So look at that. I have 10 cards past 4 and further. I usually never have that. Like, it's insane for me to run such heavy decks, because I don't know, whatever. But the other main reason why I don't have it in is because if you draw any of these other vampires, or even any of the mid-range vampires, then you're still going to be in really, really good shape. So you don't need to worry about these guys. But I mean, if you want to throw them in. I won't be upset. But that's not. I just don't like to run them in the deck, because I feel like they're too expensive, and I like to get off to an early start. Sengir Vampire is a 5 cost 4/4 flyer, so it's not bad, but it's another one of those expensive creatures. I'd much rather play this card than have this one. But then this guy, I mean, to get +2/+2 until end of turn, you have to tap 2 mana and discard a card. Isn't tapping 2 mana enough to, or like discarding a card enough to get +2/+2? That's a lot to pay for +2/+2. That being said, it's still 6. It's a 6 cost 4/4, so it's not bad. But I don't know. Repaying Kind is just god awful. Considering that your deck is based on gaining more life, and you're gonna be at like 40, then you're like, all right, Repaying Kind. Damn it! Now I go down to 5 life. Like, I don't understand why they put this in the deck. So, in summary, my version of the vampire deck is a more rush friendly and kind of like smooth kind of playing. You play your creatures, you get a lot of creatures out turn 1, turn 2, you get a lot of creatures out turn 5, you can play 2 creatures a lot, you can play a 3 cost and a 2 cost, and I mean, that's really just the way I would rather have it in the deck. I would rather have a really smooth deck than a deck that takes a little while to build up and then starts getting really, really strong. So you're welcome to run a different way. I've tried it both ways, and I find that I do really well with this deck. I won almost every game that I played. One thing that I do have to note is that I played Ancient Depths a bunch today, and I only won like 3 out of 5. So this deck is a little bit more weak to Ancient Depths than I would like. If you want to just make this an Ancient Depths counter for some reason, play this guy, he's flying. Play this guy, he's flying. Get some more flyers in there. Play these guys. These guys are really clutch against Ancient Depths. Especially if you get 2 of them out, you'll get a lot of damage per turn. And then take out some other cards. I don't know. Take out like what would you even take out? I don't know. All the more expensive vampires have flying. So, but anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. I don't even know why I can't talk. My throat hurts so much right now. I don't even know what to say. Bye.